Because I don't know nobody that he fought. He's never knocked out nobody at the top. And I know he's going to say, oh, well, you're going to be the first one. Yeah, okay, sound good. We've heard this before. But he's never done this at the highest level. I've been at the highest level for 7-8 years now.
I guess you disagree with that on.
All right, man. So what we have here is Devin Haney saying why he picked Brian Norman, because he ain't seen him beat no top contender. So, that made him vulnerable in his opinion. It made him the guy that they wanted to go to. So, he took probably the words right out the Brian Norman Jr. mouth when he said, "Oh, he's gonna say I'm gonna be the first one." And, it is what it is. Most people, conventional thought is that Norman is gonna knock him out because of what Ryan Garcia done. And I've seen that happen in the sport of boxing quite a few times, where you see a guy that's been dropped or knocked out. He's been dropped or knocked out, and maybe by a lesser puncher or a lesser fighter. And he fights another guy that's considered a more dangerous fighter or a dangerous puncher, and everybody thinks conventional wisdom is that he's gonna get knocked out. And he comes through and win the fight. Actually show a pretty good chin. And, I've seen it happen time and time again. Most people would have believed that Marcos Madonna would have sent, what's brother name? Amir Khan wig to the upper room. It didn't happen like that. So you've seen it happen before. Boxing is a funny sport because back in the day, 6 to 8 weeks got you ready for a fight, and it still was difficult to peak on any given Saturday night. It still was difficult to peak on a Saturday night. Now you're talking about anywhere from 10 to 12 week camp. So imagine 10 to 12 weeks. Part of it is a fat camp. Really, most of it is a fat camp. Even sparring is about you losing weight, and you got to be great on a Saturday night after a weight cut. You trying to weight cut, you trying to strategize. If you come in at a respectable weight for camp, the work is just going to burn the weight off. But if you come 20, 30, pounds over, overweight, 20 is a solid number because in reality, in boxing, if you come I think 30 is starting to stretch it. Anything kind of significantly more than 20 is starting to stretch it. Because you think about it, you do a good solid 8-week camp, really you just need to lose around 2.5 pounds, if that. Because you go 2.5 pounds a week in an 8-week camp just to cut to 20. You know what I'm saying? So you think about it that way, 2.5 pounds a week on a boxing regiment where you sleep shitting in boxing, and you ain't doing no extra fat camp. You just doing what you doing. You jogging, you training, strength training, or you doing, floor work, you're sparring, you're hitting the bag and all that other stuff. You should be able to eclipse 2.5 pounds a week. And you probably eat a little bit of what the fuck you want to eat still. You know what I'm saying? Because you in that mode. Now, if you start talking about anything, you start getting around 4 or 5 pounds a week, that's a drastic cut. When you're young, you can survive those drastic cuts. When you get older, that's when you start seeing, chins get vulnerable, body start breaking down, all that stuff. So, but we've seen it in history before, where guys are considered chinny, or does he had a bad night? That's what it is. So we'll see what Devin Haney can do. He believes, he's levels above him. I mean, Barrio said it won't be easy for Norman. And we all get enamored with the long ball. No Diddy, no Harvey Weinstein, no Kevin Spacey. We all get enamored with the power. You know, we so quick to say, oh man, he gonna knock him out because he got power. You know, power can be taken away. You know, a lot of guys think, hey man, let me avoid the power. Sometimes you go to the power. You smother the power. You put them on their heels. Roy Jones' train of thought is you avoid it for the first 4 rounds. You take your time. You make it a boxing match. You let the air out the power punching tires. You make a miss, and then you start working. You know what I'm saying? Andre Ward train of thought was, let me go right to the power, and let me get his respect. 2 train of thoughts. You know, but Norman has been trying to train to do something different. That's what we can say. He's been trying to do something different. You know, they've been trying to box more and, you know, look a little bit better in the ring as far as their boxing skills, because what the daddy know is eventually they gonna move up and eventually they're not gonna be able to walk and beat down bigger guys. So they know that we need a wrench, a monkey wrench, we need a ratchet, you know, we need a screwdriver, we need a drill, you know what I'm saying? We need a hammer, we need Allen wrenches. He know, like, it ain't about the here and now. They may be able to go get Devin Haney and walk him down and get him out of there. But, you know, when you start kind of moving up in weight and you start to get to the upper echelon in the pound for pound list, you ain't gonna be able to just, you know, thug it out and dog everybody out. So they working on the jab and they look good versus very 2 pedestrian fighters in the grand scheme of things. And that's one of the last things that I noticed that a lot of fans look at in sports overall. They don't ever look at who you beat. You know, they never look at who you beat. When they come to the pound for pound list, it ain't never about the resume. You know, it's all about the eye test and popularity, and all those go into the pound for pound list. But they be ignoring who these guys be beating. You know, and that's the most critical point of it. And if Norman and them, you know, beat Devin Haney, then guess what? They got a trinket on their hand. But Haney is going to try to, you know, box him. So will we see the Devin Haney on the front foot? You know, I doubt it. Will you see him on the back foot? Yeah, probably so. People say he needed to do what he did to Regis. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. But when you ain't the puncher, you don't really got a lot of room for error. So you got to remember that when you ain't the puncher, you don't have a lot of room for error. So I think people need to really understand that. So, but you can take power away. You can diffuse him. So he feel like he a sweet lick. He feel like he getting them white green. And it's up to the Normans to come up with a game plan. You know? And even if the game plan is to knock Devin Haney out, you know, the game plan needs to kind of be like phases to it. There should be phases to it. We just can't go in there and knock him out. How about, you know, you use the jab, break the body down, counter his jab with the left hook or something. Like, it got to be something educational. You know what I'm saying? They can't just say, well, he ain't got no chin. He's smaller guy coming up. I'm just going to walk through him. If they think that's going to be the game plan, then they already lost. They better come up with phases on how they want to do it. And maybe early on, we just jabbing the body. We may be trying to take away his jab. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think they can wait for him to jab to counter it. And then actually, you know, you down a few rounds. No, even with power, you don't want to be down a few rounds. You know, work on attacking the body. You know what I'm saying? Work on leading and being first. You know, work on it. We may not, you know, hit his head or hit his chin. Let's hit his shoulder. Let's hit his hips. It's an old Mexican trick. You know, let's make sure we following up more than one shot. Because what guys like Devin Haney want, what Floyd really love is for guys to be flat-footed in that style and you to throw one punch. When you start throwing more than one punch at that style consistently, you know, that's what really hurt him, especially when you out jabbing him. So, but that's how Devin feel. I feel like he was a sweet lick. You know, politically they couldn't get Rolly. Politically they couldn't get um, Barrios. And other builders, you know, it is what it is. So they're attempting to do something. But, you know, Norman got a lot of big names on his resume for what he did in sparring. So he got some experience. So we'll see what happens. Thumbs up the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and the subscribe button is the bell icon button. Hit all notifications, increase your chance, get notifications. We go live or drop video financially. Want to support the channel? Cash App, $CJ Good 313, Venmo CJ Good 313, PayPal link in the description. Peace.